Hello Pokemon trainers, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet video here on iStarly TV. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while now, and since I've been playing a lot of Battle Stadium singles online, I thought it would be fun to actually make some videos showcasing certain Pokemon in Battle Stadium singles and just talking about how they do, different sets you can run, and different ways you can be successful with them. I'm of the mind that just about any Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet can actually do work in Battle Stadium singles. It can actually be decent in singles. Some obviously will be better than others, but I think even random Pokemon that look very unassuming, like Spidops, for example, have their own niche that you can take advantage of and try out. So this series will be me talking about or spotlighting a different Pokemon each episode, talking about different sets that you can run with them. And I'm definitely going to jump into Pokemon that are really niche and really underused in singles. But of course, today I'm just going to go ahead and start with who I think is one of the best Pokemon in Battle Stadium singles. Just a great Pokemon all around, and of course that is Dragapult. Dragapult is personally one of my favorite Gen 8 Pokemon. It's in the top 3 alongside Flapple and Appleton. I think that my favorite of the 3 changes, you know, every now and then, but I love Dragapult. It's an awesome Pokemon, and it's a really, really good Pokemon. So let's just jump right into it. I also want to start by saying that the sets that I go over in this video are not going to be super comprehensive. Obviously, I can't account for every little corner case situation, and I can't, you know, I could be here for an hour talking about it, but I'm choosing to kind of condense it into what I think are kind of the more interesting or powerful sets, or sets that I think are maybe very niche and fun to know about. So a Pokemon like Dragapult, you look at its stats and it looks pretty cut and dry with what it can do, but surprisingly there's a lot of versatility here, which we will talk about with these sets. So keep that in mind when it comes to Battle Stadium singles. Like I said, just about any Pokemon can be viable, but also even within those Pokemon, there's infinite different ways that you could run those Pokemon. You could EV certain Pokemon to do certain things better than others and stuff like that. You can speed Calc and just like put certain EV points just to outspeed certain things, and put bulk into it to survive certain hits. So there's a lot of experimentation, which is what I'm trying to hopefully encourage with this series. So if you enjoy this, please leave a like and let me know in the comments which Pokemon you'd like to see me feature in this series. So I'm excited to get going. Let's go ahead and start. So Dragapult, let's start by looking at everything it has just kind of on a surface level. It's a Dragon and Ghost type, obviously. We look at its stat spread. It's extremely fast. Dragapult is actually the fastest Pokemon in Battle Stadium singles. It's pretty much the fastest Pokemon in the game. There is one Pokemon who outspeeds it, and that is Electrode, but you do not see any Electrode in Battle Stadium singles. And despite the fact that I just said just about any Pokemon can be viable in singles, I think Electrode is one of those Pokemon that actually just is not very good. So you should not expect to see very much Electrode. And with that in mind, nothing else aside from Electrode outspeeds Dragapult. So if you have max speed investment and either a timid or jolly nature, you will be faster than everything out there that is not choice scarfed or that has not set up like +1 or +2 speed. So of course we'll talk about some of those threats you can be wary of, but when it comes to singles, you are the fastest thing out there. Dragapult also has a massive base attack stat of 120, which makes it hit really hard. And despite the fact that Dragon and Ghost is a really strong type combination both defensively and offensively, one downside to Dragapult is, despite this very high 120 base attack stat, it actually gets walled by a lot of physical walls, which is unsurprising. I mean, I guess that's what they're there for, right? But you think of Pokemon like Corviknight, for example, and Corviknight absolutely can take hits for days from Dragapult. I think the biggest reason that Dragapult, is kept in check despite this very high attack and very high very high speed stat is the fact that its only option for Ghost type stab is actually Phantom Force, which unfortunately is a 2-turn hit move, which means when you use Phantom Force, you disappear the first turn, and then you hit them or do damage the second turn. So I guess it does break protection, but no one really uses Protect in singles. So Dragapult's best Ghost to stab move is actually not very good, though its best Dragon type stab move is very good, and that's Dragon Darts, which is a effectively base 100 power dragon type move. It's base 50, but it hits twice, which is great because it can break focus sashes from Pokemon like Breloom, for example, and probably kill them in one hit. So anyways, that's just kind of the basic level. I guess we'll talk also about the 3 abilities. All 3 of these are great abilities. Clear Body prevents its stats from being lowered, so if you're trying to set up with Dragapult, or if you just want to hit as hard as possible and you want to avoid the opponent from like Intimidate or stuff like that, this is a great ability if you're trying to run a physical attacker. Now, keep in mind, it says prevents the other Pokemon from lowering this Pokemon's stats, which means if you use Draco Meteor, your stats will still be lowered. So that's because you yourself are lowering the stat in that case. It also has Infiltrator, which importantly ignores Light Screen, Reflect, Safeguard, Mist, Aurora Veil. It also goes right through substitutes. So for example, if the opponent sets up a substitute and you go for Dragon Darts, you will hit their HP through that substitute as if the substitute did not exist. This is a great ability for an offensive Pokemon like Dragapult, because if the opponent is setting up screens, you can just basically ignore them. Just click your moves, you're going to do as much damage as you would have had they not set up the screen. So that's pretty good. Finally, it has Cursed Body, which is a good ability, but personally I would say this is probably Dragapult's least useful ability. I've seen cases, and we will talk about a couple examples where this can be a good ability to have on Dragapult, but typically because Dragapult is pretty much built as an offensive Pokemon, you want these 2 abilities that benefit your offensive sets. So let's get to some of these example sets here and the ways to use Dragapult. The first is just a pure physical attacker Dragapult, taking advantage of its high attack stat and massive speed stat. Now, as for moves here, for physical moves, Dragapult gets access, of course, to Dragon Darts. You're always going to want to use Dragon Darts. And then a couple other good options for Dragapult are U-Turn and Sucker Punch. U-Turn is great. You can run a Life Orb, you can run a Choice Band, you can run even a Choice Scarf if you want. And U-Turn is just a great move because if you switch into a Pokemon who would typically be afraid of Dragapult and you predict them to switch out, you can go for U-Turn there, and then you get the momentum in that battle. I've said this before and I will continue to say it. Battle Stadium Singles is really all about momentum. If you can gain some momentum in your battle, you're going to be at a massive advantage in a lot of cases. And there are certain moments where you get some massive momentum and you can just take over the game from there. So momentum is important, and U-Turn really helps with that. Sucker Punch is great. I mean, obviously, you're faster than most everything, so the priority on Sucker Punch might not always be necessary or might not always be that important, but having a Dark type move that hits things decently hard is a good option. And again, the priority is not the most important part about it for Dragapult, but it's still a good option. You also have moves. Now, I encountered a Terra Normal Gem Double Edge Dragapult once before. I don't really recommend this set, but I guess if you want to go that route, that is an option, because again, Dragapult has a really high attack stat. You also have Quick Attack, but like I said, because Dragapult's faster than everything, and you're a base Ghost type, which means you're immune to priorities such as Mach Punch, and you resist other priority moves such as Aqua Jet, you don't really need to worry about that type of thing. Now, Terra Blast is going to be another good option because, again, Phantom Force is a move that you don't really love on Dragapult. And so Terra Blast is a great option for Dragapult if you want to go Terra Ghost type. And Terra Blast is a base 80 Ghost type move once you're Terastallized, which is pretty solid. And coming off of Dragapult's very high attack stat, that's not bad. That's not a bad choice. The thing, of course, is that Dragapult's just such a great Pokemon at doing what it does. You're likely to have other Pokemon on your team who are gonna want to Terastallize. So you might not always want to focus on Terastallizing Dragapult, and so building your Dragapult around Terastallization might not be the best way to go when you're going to have 5 other Pokemon that might have that option of Terastallizing. Sometimes certain Pokemon sets are just built around Terastallizing, and so taking that away from the other Pokemon might be a little awkward in some cases, so just keep that in mind. But Terra Blast is a great option for Dragapult, and it also offers you some really good coverage. You know, Dragapult doesn't get access to a lot of moves from the physical side of things, and so you can go Terra Fighting to cover your some of your weaknesses and hit a fighting type Terra Blast, which is actually really strong. You can go Terra Fire and have a base 80 physical fire type move, which is pretty strong, right? So just all of these options. Terra Fairy is not a bad choice either. Terra Steel is always a good option on a lot of other Pokemon, or a lot of Pokemon in general, including Dragapult. So you just have so many options for terastallizing. If you want to build around terastallizing Dragapult, by all means, go ahead. But I personally, in a lot of more general cases, I would just say this is kind of the default physical attacker set. And again, Life Orb, Choice Band, Choice Scarf. Maybe there's other options that you like for this. Maybe Lumberry if you're worried about getting paralyzed or burned. There's a lot of good options here, but I think this is just a great starting point and default set for Dragapult. Also, one final thing, if you want to rely on those priority moves like Sucker Punch or even possibly Quick Attack, you could run an Adamant Nature. Another important thing to mention about Dragapult's speed, it's so high that even if you're not a positive speed boosting nature like Jolly or Timid, you still outspeed Meowscarada, like a Jolly Meowscarada with max speed. So Meowscarada with a Jolly nature and max speed EVs will hit 192. So that's how fast Dragapult is. Even if it's not running a speed positive nature, it still outspeeds some of the fastest Pokemon in the meta. And if you really just want to hit harder and, just destroy those Meowscaradas, unless they're Choice Scarf, then could also be a good option if you want. The next set, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about because it's very similar to the previous, but this is a Dragon Dance Dragapult. Dragapult does get access to a Dragon Dance, which could boost its attack and speed stat. And then from there, as the rest of the moves, you're going to always want to run Dragon Darts on Dragapult. On Dragapult, it's its signature move, so you're always going to want to do that. And then from there, you can choose which of these two moves. Of course, in the last part, I recommended U-Turn, but obviously on this set, you're not going to want to use U-Turn because of Dragon Dance. And then this is a set where you would want Clear Body more than anything else because you're trying to boost your stats, so you definitely don't want the opponent to lower your stats after you've boosted them, so Clear Body is good in that regard. Of course, you can have Terra Blast as with the previous set, and this might be a set where you might want Terra Blast more than the previous one. The previous one's kind of more like an offensive pivot, or just like an offensive Pokemon in general, where, again, like I said, you might not want to take away the terastallization option from your other Pokemon, but since this set is a little bit more all-in and you're trying to set up your attack stat and just get as high as possible and then just sweep through the opponent's team, this could be a set where you might want to focus a little bit more on terastallizing. Like you could build your team around Dragapult setting up Dragon Dances and then just go from there. So that again gives you another good coverage option if you want to change your Terra type, which I think is a great deal. I put Focus Sash on. Of course, you can also run Life Orb. You can also run Lumberry. You can also run, whatever else you want. There's so many other options, but I think Focus Sash is good because it guarantees you get up a Dragon Dance, and then after that you have Sucker Punch for priority if you want to use it. So even Pokemon that might have priority themselves, even if you're at 1 HP from your Focus Sash, you can still use Sucker Punch to threaten them. So yeah, I like this set a lot as well. And I don't see it that often, but it seems like it has potential to be really powerful. One final thing about this set is because you're focused on boosting your speed and because you have Focus Sash to kind of like guaranteed live a hit, you could, if you really wanted to, you could go less speed because you're going to be boosting your speed with Dragon Dance, and you could just run enough speed to maybe outspeed something like Hydreigon before a boost. Hydreigon hits 165 with max EVs and a Timid nature, so you could run like this much speed, and then if you really wanted to, this might sound weird, you could dump all that in special attack and like run like a Naughty nature or something like that, and then run Fire Blast for coverage to surprise steel type Pokemon like Corviknight if you want to, or even like Thunderbolt for Corviknight plus Dondozo, and they won't expect that. So that's an option. And then maybe you run a Life Orb if you, there's so many ways to go about this. Like I said, Dragapult is so versatile, and I think running a mix set seems like it has a lot of promise, but if you just want to be absolutely safe, then just the pretty standard max attack, max speed with like an Adamant or Jolly nature is a safe bet. Next, we have what is personally my favorite set. If you've been watching my Battle Stadium singles series, my Road to Master series, you will probably have seen that I have been running a lot of this exact set. This is my favorite Dragapult set, but also probably just my favorite set in general in Battle Stadium singles right now. I put it on almost every team whenever I have the opportunity. I've just found it to be so strong. This is Choice Specs Dragapult, and I like to run max special attack, max speed with a modest nature rather than a timid nature, Dragapult has amazing coverage on the special side of things. It has these options. It has Draco Meteor, Shadow Ball, it has Thunderbolt, it has Fire Blast. It also even has Hydro Pump. It has so many amazing options from the special attacking side. And then of course you also have the option to go Terra Blast with whatever Terra type you want, you know, Fairy, maybe Fighting, etc. It's just so good. Steel if you want. But this set, these 4 moves have just been so good for me. You know, Draco hits super hard with Terra Dragon. You can Terrastallize, go Draco, and just absolutely obliterate something. People typically expect you, when they see Dragapult, they typically expect you to be a physical attacker. So just like surprising them and smashing them with a huge, really strong Shadow Ball is also great. And of course, Shadow Ball is a stab super effective, or just a stab move, sorry, that does not take 2 turns to hit like Phantom Force. Then Thunderbolt is great as well, again, for hitting those water types that might otherwise wall you. Hits Dondozo super hard. It hits Corviknight super hard. And then there's Fire Blast, which is also a great option. If you want to be safer, of course, you can run Flamethrower. But personally, I've been loving Fire Blast. And I've been using this set since Sword and Shield. And it's always just been so tried and true for me. I love it so much. And you can go Terra Ghost if you want for those Shadow Balls to hit harder, because a lot of the time, Shadow Ball just is great against a lot of teams because not that many things resist it. And there's actually a lot of ghost types in the tier in general, or in the meta in general. Obviously, you're going to want to watch out for Terra normal types, but in general, this just hits so hard. And there really aren't that many normal type Pokemon running around. So in a lot of cases, you can just go into something and spam Shadow Ball with impunity, and the opponent might not have any good switch-ins. And of course, there's also the chance to lower their special defense, which means you can just continuously spam Shadow Balls and just racking up that damage. I love this set so much. It's possible you might want to go Timid. Obviously, it's really funny because when I have this Pokemon on my team, which is often, and I see an opposing Dragapult on the other team, I definitely get scared because I know they're going to be faster than me. But if you want to have that speed tie, you can go Timid Nature, which means you're going to be hitting a little bit less hard, but you're going to be faster than, again, just about everything in the meta. So it's up to you how you want to run that. Personally, I just love going a Modest Nature and just having other Pokemon on my team that can take on opposing Dragapults, but love it. Now we're getting into the possibly weirder sets for Dragapult. I accidentally messed up with the EVs here, but this one is, as you can see, kind of more of like a, how would I describe this? Like a tricky kind of Dragapult set. We got max HP, max speed with Substitute, Will-O-Wisp, Hex, and Disable. So this is just like a Dragapult set that's meant to just kind of disrupt the opponent, kind of mess them up. You can burn physical attackers and set up substitutes on predicted switches and stuff like that. And then Hex gets more damage if the opponent's burned, obviously. And then you can cast or use Disable on them if they use a move that could break your substitute. There's just so much going on with this set. I think you would want to run Timid in that case. And it's just a really strong set. I think I saw this on Smogon, but I might have tweaked it a little bit for me. Now, as I talked about previously, if you really want an option you have, and I think that's why I didn't have my EVs at first, because I was messing around with different options. You can go like a defense or special defense boosting nature with just enough speed to outspeed like Hydreigon. And then, that means you're going to be taking hits super well. I guess if you want to take on Hydreigon, you could just go like a special defense boosting nature with a calm nature and stuff like that. And then you have Will-O-Wisps to take on physical attackers. I don't know. There's a lot of options for this. I guess if you don't want to run Disable, you can also run another move because, if you're worried about normal types that could wall your hexes or something like that, that's another option as well. But this is just something you could play with, again, with as far as the EVs are concerned. On Smogon, they just have max speed and max HP with like a Timid Nature, which is also pretty solid, I think. And again, when people see Dragapult, they might not expect this set, so it's possible you can just completely shut down Pokemon and opposing teams and just really ruin their day because they're not going to see it coming. You Will-O-Wisp a physical attacker, then you set up a substitute on a predicted switch, then you maybe Will-O-Wisp again and go for Hex or Disable them, right? There's just so much you can do with this, and I think there's a lot of good options with a bulky Dragapult. And the next set we have here is going to be very similar to the previous one where we're running max HP and max speed, but this one is a Screens Dragapult with Reflect and Light Screen. Dragapult actually is one of the best screen setters in this meta because it's just so fast. And with max HP, its bulk is actually kind of okay. It's not that bad. So you can like get up a screen against something and then take hits from them and then get up the other screen. And then you can use Curse to like get a lot of damage on them and like cut your own HP to give you that initiative. So if you knock yourself out with Curse, then you can go switch into something else to take advantage of those screens. So that's a great option. I love this set so much. I haven't tried it out personally, if I'm being honest, but it looks really good. And I think there was a point in Sword and Shield's meta where this was kind of one of the go-to Dragapult sets just because it's so fast and it could set up screens for days. I think this is a situation where maybe Cursed Body would be a good option for you because you're going to set up your screens and then the opponent will hit you with a move, and then having that 30% chance to disable their move is actually pretty good. So I think this is one of the maybe rare cases where Cursed Body on Dragapult would be good. And I think the previous set as well, you would probably want Cursed Body on this one just because these are more bulky, and then the other ones are more purely offensive, so you want the more offensive abilities. Finally, we have a mixed Dragapult set, which I think has a lot of potential in this meta, because Dragapult, again, it has a really good attack stat, an excellent speed stat, and a solid special attack stat. And then it has Dragon Darts, which is just a really strong dragon move in general that's better than Draco Meteor. And then you have Shadow Ball, which is a special move that's better than Phantom Force in a lot of cases. Then you have Fire Blast to hit Steel types and U-Turn, or of course you can always run Terra Blast, whether physical or special. Although you want to keep in mind whichever of your attack stats is higher, that is the type that Terra Blast will be. So if your attack stat is higher, Terra Blast will be a physical attack, if that makes any sense. So as far as what you want to invest in, that's kind of up to you. If you want to like go more in special attack and just have Dragon Darts there as like, you know, just a good dragon type move, that could be an option. Or if you just want to go like maximize its highest offensive stat and then just, you know, put a little bit in special attack to hit those, you know, fire blasts really hard, that's another good option as well. Of course, you can also run Thunderbolt, because, you know, as far as steel types are concerned, I think one of your biggest threats is Corviknight, who is also weak to Thunderbolt. And then, of course, Dondozo is just a great Pokemon as well, who is also weak to Thunderbolt. So you could run Thunderbolt in place of Fire Blast if you want. And, I mean, as far as this set is concerned, just play around with it. Whichever 4 moves you think are most useful for this Dragapult, I think a mixed attacker is a great option. Something I also kind of brainstormed, I haven't tried it out, but I want to, is something like this with basically a choice scarf. So you outspeed with a choice scarf, you outspeed everything with 0 investment because you're just, again, so fast. And then you can just dump it all into max attack and max special attack and just hit both of those really hard. I run Naughty Nature. I like to run, if you're running these sets, I like to run either, you know, Naughty or Naive, basically the sets that lower special defense. And the reason for that is because a lot of the priority moves in this meta are physical, like Aqua Jet, Bullet Punch, Sucker Punch, etc. And so just having more defense, it might not end up mattering in a lot of cases, but I mean, it's just better to have more defense than special defense in a lot of cases. And I think physical attackers are just more common in general. So mixed Dragapult all the way. I think it's worth trying out. Again, you can really play around with the EVs and the moves and the item. There's so much flexibility with Dragapult. It's just such an amazing Pokemon. So those are my different options for different Dragapult sets. I hope this video didn't go on too long. Now what I want to do is just kind of showcase one of these sets in a battle. All right, so this team actually has the dual screens. Oop, I forgot to turn off the music. Sorry about that. If you want to see me showcase the special attacking Dragapult, you can watch so many of my Battle Stadium singles videos, and I have so many, again, that's Choice Specs Dragapult on my team. But this time I wanted to try something very different with the dual screen. So let's see how this goes. And then basically I have 2 setup sweepers that can take advantage of screens. Meowscarada is a great partner for Dragapult because it covers its weaknesses usually pretty well. But my opponent seems really interesting. They have Spidops, which I think gets access to Sticky Web. I'm just going to go ahead and start with Dragapult, and then I'm going to plan to set up with, I think, Volcarona. Skeledirge is solid here as well. My opponent seems really interesting. I'm just going to go Haxorus and Skeledirge, and let's see what happens. I know this is really random. Again, they probably have Sticky Webs, right? So I'm just going to Darts here, because they might have Focus Edge. Wow, that takes that really well. Are they might be max HP and max, like, max defense or something. That's crazy. Okay, so either way, I'm just going to go ahead and Reflect here. The fact that they got up the Sticky Webs is really good for them, because now it's going to lower the speed of my Haxorus. But my Haxorus does have Dragon Dance, and that's kind of the goal of this team, was for me to set up screens and then go into one of my sweepers and just start setting up in their face. We do also have Skeleturge. I'm just gonna go into Haxorus. I don't know, let's see how this plays out. Oh, they U-turn. Wow, that does so much damage. Well, that's not good. They go into Arcanine, which I'm not that afraid of. Can probably go back into Dragapult. And they go Dragon Pulse. Wow, I definitely was not expecting that. Now I think I just curse just to get damage on them. I guess they are a special attacker, so it's possible I might want to go for Light Screen here. They might have Extreme Speed as well, but they can't Extreme Speed me because I'm a Ghost type. I'm just not going to worry about this, you know, attacking from the special side. I'm just going to go ahead and go for the curse here. Well, actually, you know what? I think it's worth it to get off the Light Screen there. And then they do knock me out. I could go into Dirge here. I don't know if they're choiced and locked into Dragon Pulse. I think I'm just going to go into Skeleturge and set up a... Oh, I'm not Terra Fairy. I thought I was Terra Fairy. I think that's fine, though. So I'm not going to want to Terra right now, then. I'm just going to go Torch Song, get off some damage. They go into Goodra, which means I can just Will-O-Wisp here. So when Haxorus, if Haxorus is going to get to a point where it's going to set up in this game, it's probably not going to have the screens anymore because I don't plan on switching into Haxorus anytime soon. They go Earthquake here, which does just about nothing. I'm going to Terra Normal and go for the Hex. Terra Normal will make me no longer weak to Earthquake anymore. And Terra Normal is just a great typing for me. Honestly, Skeleturge can kind of just take over the game by itself. Like, I can just spam Torch Song at some point, and then once I'm at a high enough special attack stat, I can just kind of knock them out. I guess one concern is if they have close combat on their Arcanine, but given that they have Dragon Pulse, like, I kind of don't think that they are going to really be threatening me that much. They're Terra Ground now, so I'm just going to go ahead and Torch Song now until they get knocked out. I'm not worried about an Earthquake. I mean, obviously it's doing so little. So yeah, let's go ahead and see. Yeah, they Earthquake. Again, that's just, I'm just going to Torch Song until I'm at like plus 10. Not plus 10, obviously, but then this thing, again, I don't think this thing can touch me or really threaten me. And then Spidops obviously can't do anything against Skeleturge. All right, they go into Spidops. I'm just going to Torch Song. This should knock it out. They'll be faster, though, because I have -1 speed. But this will knock it out. Oh, wow, I'm still faster. Wow. I mean, Spidops is extremely slow, so I guess that makes some amount of sense. Now they go into their Arcanine. I'm just going to start with a Slack Off just to kind of scout what they do. I should be able to live any hit from them. Plus, if they're purely special, I do have a Light Screen up still, so yeah. Okay, wow, they just go Overheat, and that's probably going to be game because now their special attack stat is lower. Now I just spam Hex, and I'm at +3 special attack, so yeah, this game is pretty much over. And that's the team. That's the Dragapult. I mean, unfortunately, I don't really have time to showcase another Dragapult video, but I hope that, or another Dragapult battle, but I do hope that this video did a decent job of showcasing Dragapult in Battle Stadium singles, as well as giving you a few different options for how you can run Dragapult. Like I said, this Pokemon's really good. It's really versatile. I wanted to start with it just because of that, because it's so versatile and there's so many different ways to run it. I think you can put this on any team, and depending on which set you're running, you'll have some success with it. So Dragapult's amazing. I encourage you to use it in singles. It's just, yeah, I can't say enough about it anymore. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the series. You know, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I had a lot of fun making this video, but I know there's a lot of different ways I could improve this type of format. So let me know if you have any suggestions, and let me know who your favorite Pokemon is so far in Battle Stadium singles if you've been playing. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.